Welcome to Jimbo's Garage.
Good afternoon everyone and welcome back to Jimbo's Garage. Today's video we're going to be making a couple of metal awnings, 4 of them to be exact. One more time. 4 metal awnings for a chicken restaurant. Let's get started today's video. Well, sometimes everything doesn't go exactly the way you want it. You got to have some fun sometimes. All right, so we're starting off here with some getting the frames built for this. This is some 1-inch square tube 063 wall thickness, pretty thin material right here. This batch of material I got from the metal supply store had a really heavy coating of oil on it. I found these gloves right here at a local building supply store. They had them on the shelf, and they're actually pretty cool. They're going to serve their purpose pretty good right here. All right, so I'm just getting all the angles cut right here and getting all the frames ready to go. There's a lot of 45s and a lot of different other angles as well. You can see that I'm marking them up right here, and I'm just kind of using I've got a template set right there, and I'm just gonna mark the angles that I need to cut. You know, the front ones were a 45. This is a little bit more than a 45. So what I did is I made this this wood template that fits inside where the saw is, and I was able to achieve that a little bit sharper of an angle that I needed for that. And you know, that worked out pretty good. It slipped off there a couple of times, but for the most part, I got everything cut just the way I needed to. All right, so it's time for some assembly here. It's pretty straightforward. There's just a couple of L brackets, one on either side, and we're going to be using the HTP ProPulse 220 MTS right here. You know, a lot of people ask me what kind of settings I use, and you know, that varies. A lot of my project are thin wall tubing right here. This is 063, so for me and the machine that I use, I like to run it at about 200 inches a minute. That seems to work the best for me, and this is 35 thousandths wire. All right, so I just got these L brackets down, and I'm just grinding down the welds here, and we're gonna start to assemble them here pretty soon. Now, this is not my design. I am just kind of matching. They'd asked me to match something that's already existing on the building. They're just adding some more awnings to it. So you can see that there's really not too much to this frame. If it were me and I was doing it, I would have built it a little bit different, a little bit stronger, of course. But you know, I'm just limited to what they asked me to do right here. So basically an L bracket with a long piece going on the bottom side, and then another long piece on the top side. You know, this just fit on my welding table right here. And this one here is just short of 10 feet, and it's nice to be able to have something that you can work with on the table. You know, I'm covering up the lathe right there. I've had a lot of people comment about, hey, you need to really cover that thing up. All the dust and the grindings and stuff from welding and grinding is going to ruin that brand new lathe. And so I was noticing that was happening for sure. So I got a moving blanket, temporarily threw that over the top of it. I'm going to probably ultimately have a cover made for it, or something a little bit more permanent. All right, so these are the uprights right here that are going in. Now, I originally decided to put these at about 16 inches on center. The sheet metal that I'm going to be using for this, I thought I measured it to where these things would land on the same spot, where I could get the screws in and everything would be okay. But so I'm starting at 16 inches on center. Now you can see this thing is starting to sag a little bit, and so I propped it up with the 2x4, and this is what I was talking about. If I was doing it, I'd done a little bit different. I probably would put a long bar across the bottom there and then put some uprights where the 2x4 is, and that probably would have made things a little bit differently, but this worked out okay. Once I got everything in, I just welded everything on both sides all the way around. All right, so you might see a little bit of gap right there on the very top. There's nothing I'm going to do about that. That's just the way the other ones were, and the sheet metal is going to be covering that, and there's going to be, you know, water's not going to have any issues getting in there. Now, I couldn't get to the welding on the top of this, so I was able to jump up on the welding table right there and catch those welds. I couldn't reach from the ground. You can see the grinding right there. It's okay to grind it, but I couldn't see what I was doing with welding up there. All right, so here's the sheet metal I'm using. It's some pretty thin gauge stuff. Just as the stuff that was on the existing ones that I'm just matching. I think they call this architectural sheet metal. That was the name of it. I just put a brand new Mercer cutoff wheel on here, and no problems cutting through this right there. A little bit dangerous, just because it's razor blade sharp, and I didn't want to get cut, so I let a couple of those go. But you can see how that just cuts right through it. And then once I got them all cut, I just took a file to all these sharp edges and kind of deburred everything with a file, and then just came back with some emery cloth and cleaned that up. And of course, it's thin, so it's sharp, but still got the burrs off, and that's a lot better. All right, so it's time to start assembling this, or at least putting the sheet metal on here. And you can see I've got the frame clamped down to my welding table, and then a couple of clamps right here, and I'm using the bottom of the welding table as a guide. And then it is just a matter of putting these screws in. Now I am using some self-tapping screws. These things are pretty cool. They got a little rubber grommet on the very bottom. Well, the idea was for me to on these vertical pieces at 16 inches on center, the idea was to hit the flat part right there. And for some reason, I don't really know, but I guess maybe it might be the overlapping. When I overlapped it, all of a sudden I was losing. I couldn't get that flat bar where it needed to be, so I had to make some adjustments and actually get some screws into the top and bottom rail. And they didn't. You can see they're starting to get a little cattywampus right there, but you know, this whole thing is going to get painted black and red ultimately, and it's going to be, you know, you won't be able to see that. But just like anything, I guess the more you do the same thing, you get things figured out, and ultimately that's what's going to happen here on the last one that I do. Nevertheless, got these screws in and got this one completed. All right, so this is actually the third out of four. I already did two of the longer ones, and so this is just one of them. That's three complete, and then this is the last one. The last one is a smaller one. It's only about 5 feet long, but it's basically the same process right here. Just an L frame with the brackets, and you can see with the table dogs right there and the fixture clamps. It's just a fast process. It's easy. Everything is square all the time. And it makes for something like this to get welded and put together fairly quick. This one being as short as it is, just that long rail at the bottom and the top was enough. You know, I know that probably it was a weight issue was probably what they were concerned about when they made the other ones. That's why they, you know, didn't want to add too much more support to it, or too much support to it, making it heavy. But I know this worked out pretty good. Got everything all clamped in, and this frame went together pretty smooth. You know, it's nice being able to do something small for a change, and be able to maneuver your way around the welding table, and it's really more comfortable, a lot comfortable this way. Now this one here, I believe these things, I double checked the spacing on the sheet metal, and I think these things ended up being around 15 inches, not 16 inches, and then this is going to make it to where I'll be able to put the sheet metal on, overlap everything, and I'll hit those uprights properly with the screws. All right, just got all the welding in there, and just some finishing touches with grinding down some of those welds, getting it flat. All right, and this one's only going to take a couple panels, I believe, right here. So this first one, you can see what I'm talking about. Now I got those screws right where I want them, and they went in nice and smooth. You know, just like anything, the more you do, you know, the better you get at it. If I was doing 4 more, probably be a lot easier. All right, well, there it is. That was a fun little project. This is what they look like installed. They're unpainted. Ultimately, you're going to be painted red and black. This is the other side of the building, and this is what they look like. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed watching the video. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to check out my website at jimbosgarage.com. Also, follow us on Facebook. Check us out on Instagram. Thanks again for watching. See you guys next week.
See you next time on Jimbo's Garage.